Boker Tov and welcome to our 2016 Homeschool Family Conference. And in this session, we're going to talk about how to teach math to all ages. That's one of the special little secrets of our curriculum, is that we really tried to help the mom be able to teach arithmetic to all of her children at once. It simplifies her life, and I think it provides a better education for her children as well. My name is Ann Elliott, and I'm the author and founder of HomeschoolingTorah.com. First of all, I want to just give you an introduction to our math. It's called Foundations of Arithmetic, and I want to just tell you a little bit about how we made it and why, and then I'll go into some specifics about how you can teach math to all your children at once. First of all, here are some things that make our curriculum different. Arithmetic is intended, the way we are looking at it, to teach children that Yehovah is orderly and that His world has laws and that those laws govern all of His creation. Now, if you are Torah observant, you already recognize that His world is filled with laws and that those laws are unchangeable. Just as the force of gravity is unchangeable, if you drop something, it will fall. So also His food laws are unchangeable, and His calendar and time are unchangeable. His Sabbath is unchangeable. His requirements of a blood sacrifice are unchangeable. All of those things don't change, and neither do the laws of arithmetic. And it helps our children to study what some of those laws are and discover them and to realize that they apply to everything in life. So arithmetic is really valuable for all of life. It helps them understand that there are absolutes. 2 plus 3 always equals 5. And in some math curriculum on the market today, it is optional. The child can figure out, well, what do you think it means? And that's not how we teach at all. Also, your children are going to learn to be precise, to be exact, to be neat, and to be disciplined in their work. One of the things that we try to teach our kids is that when you line things up in math, you need to line them up neatly. Everything lined up one under another, everything neat and tidy, and that you solve everything in a certain order, and that everything is done in a precise way. Everything neat and tidy is the word I use a lot in my home, and it applies to math, but it also applies to so much else in life. If we are precise, if we are careful, if we were building a bridge, first of all, we would take the time. If we were building a tower, Yeshua says, to count the cost, and we would need to count and make sure that we don't start something that we can't finish. But we're also precise, because we in the Torah are required to think of others and to be sure that our activities do not harm them. We put a balcony around the edges of our rooftops if we're up there, so that no one falls off and is harmed. And as we work on our math, and we realize that it can apply to construction activities and other things, from cooking to just everything in life, manufacturing computers or whatever it is, we need to be precise for the good and care and love of others. Our curriculum emphasizes memorization and drill, because quite simply, if you memorize something, you're going to be able to apply it to your life more quickly than if you have to sit and come up with why 7 plus 5 is 12 every single time you do it, and lay out all your manipulatives and figure out the whys behind it. It's okay to do that a few times, and we do that in our curriculum, but it seems wiser to memorize it so that you can use that fact and it is available to you quickly. Our goal is to continually review math concepts. So when we introduce a new math concept on the worksheets that day, there will be a multitude of ways to review the concepts learned last week and the week before and the week before, so that they become routine and your child is able to actually go from learning a new concept to making it automatic. Some curriculum companies teach one concept and they stay on it for several weeks, and then they put it away, never to be visited again until maybe the next school year. That is not how we look at it. We want to review and review and review. As I've talked in another session, we use hear, learn, keep, do, and to keep the things, to guard the things that we have learned, and to keep them in a very special place, and to continually bring them out and to be reminded of them will help us to actually use them more in our lives. Finally, we provide plenty of real-life problems, and we try to take these problems most of the time from Scripture. Scripture is filled with math examples that can then be applied later to science and to just daily life. So we're going to give your children an opportunity to have story problems. But here's one of the things we do different. We have those story problems most of the time with the mom and dad. So if you only hand your child one of our worksheets, they're not going to get the story problems that they would get if you actually do the teacher's guide with them and participate with them in their math. On that note, we have two parts to our math program. First of all, we have our together math drills. And for 3 days every week, your children are going to have a together time with you. And it can only last from 5 minutes to maybe 20 minutes, depending on how fast you want to go and how much time you have in your day, or maybe how many children you have participating. But they're going to play games together, they're going to do drills and repetition and flashcards, and they're going to have some fun competition. And one of the things that my kids enjoy is to have a good, healthy game where they can try to win. And we do have that in our math program. Now, if your child is an only child, you're going to have to be creative. And a lot of times you could have them race a timer and see if that gives them some competition, and they have to try to go faster than the timer. But anyway, we want this to be a fun time, but we also don't want it to be skipped, because if you skip this part of math, your children are not going to have that drill that helps the math concepts to become automatic and therefore easy and enjoyable. If you only have the worksheets, it doesn't ever become easy, and it's certainly not enjoyable. In fact, it can be a real drag. So now on the other 2 days of the week, we have the story problems. And this is where we go into all kinds of things in Scripture, from figuring out the dimensions of Noah's Ark to all kinds of things in the tabernacle or the temple, just to counting the tribes of Israel, and all just a variety of math problems. And you're going to, again, want to do that with your kids, show them how to use good research skills and concordances and dictionaries alongside with their math skills. So it's really good. Okay, here are some supplies that you're going to want to use when you teach arithmetic to your children. And of course they're going to vary from week to week, but I'm just going to show you how simple it is to use everyday items that are around your house. So you're going to see my supplies and think, I don't really need to buy anything too fancy here. One of the first things that we're going to do is we're going to supply you with some charts that you can download, but this is just a simple hundreds chart, and we have them available to you in the downloads for all of our members, but you can get them online too if you want something really colorful. Sometimes you'll see them at the Dollar Tree. Other charts will be handy, such as the divisibility rules as your child gets older and learns to divide. And these kinds of charts, because they are more complicated, are great to just leave up around the house. Now, you'll notice my husband has a set of clipboards here, and we've got verses on them, but when we aren't using those verses, or I want to have a specific chart up for a while, I can just set it on that clipboard and let it stay there for a while. It still looks decorative. So, you don't have to completely turn your home into a schoolroom if you don't want to. The refrigerator is a great place too. So you're going to have a lot of charts and things. Sometimes I let my kids color all over these charts, but especially with the hundreds chart, it's really nice to get some manipulatives. Now, manipulatives can cost you a lot of money at a school supply store, or you can just make them yourself. Now, these have been through quite a few kids, so they look like it. In fact, I think that I've had this for all 7 of my children. These cups are old, but man, they love them. And basically what it is just a bunch of cups, and inside the bag I've got, besides a little bit of dog hair, I've got coins and things, but then I just found a bunch of buttons at the craft store. They're just located right with, they aren't buttons that match anything. I wouldn't ever spend that much. This is just a collection of mismatched buttons that you can actually buy for not very much money at all. And those are great to take your hundreds chart and take buttons and lay them on maybe what is 3 plus 4. So I can put a button here and then another button 4 spaces over, and they can easily see what 3 plus 4 is. That's great for the younger kids, and it's fun for the older ones too. And sometimes you can use it for sorting. That's why I have so many cups in here, is because we would sort them into different colors or put an even number or an odd number of things in each one. Another thing, speaking of even and odd, it's really handy just to have rulers and yardsticks in your house, and you can demonstrate, the even is when you have an even number of things and turn this into a balance of sorts. You have to have even things. And then if you don't, if you have an odd number, maybe you have 3 on this side and only 2 on this side, that is now odd. This is even, this is odd. But you can use it as a simple number line as well. 1, 2, 3 plus 4 more, 1, 2, 3, 4 is 7. And it's just sometimes fun to use things like that. Really, really easy. Another thing that I wouldn't be without, I got mine at a garage sale, or maybe it was Goodwill. Yeah, Goodwill. It says right there, Goodwill, $2.99. Can't beat that, but we use this constantly. And we use it, I start with my preschoolers and I just let them play with it. But honestly, you can do some pretty complex things with this. And so you're going to use it for a lot of years. I let my kids have this on the table with them when they do their worksheets, or I'll give them a box of crayons and let them use the crayons to color. But I like this because it groups everything into groups of 10, which helps them to understand place value, someday tens and 100s and 1000s. Another thing that is fantastic is a clock, and you can get these. I also got this at Goodwill, but you can get it at any school supply store, or you can get them on Amazon. And not only does this help them learn time, which is valuable, but that's not really why we do it. In arithmetic, we're doing it so that they can learn to count by 5s. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. And later you can count by 10s, 20, 30, 40, 50. They're counting by 15s. They're counting by 60s, which is just a multiple of 6. There's so many things you can use a clock for. Another thing I like to have besides, I already showed you my nickel. I think it wasn't supposed to be in the button bag. But I have all kinds of coins in here. The coins are valuable to help them learn to count by 5s, by 10s, by 25s, 25, 50, 75, $1. We're going to do that a lot in math. Pennies are fantastic for learning to count up to 10 or 20. And so I usually keep up maybe $2 or $3 worth of spare change in this bag, and we know not to touch it for anything else. And then I like to keep some dice so that you can multiply. Let's see, what is that? 5 plus 6. So a really fun game, and when we have games like this in our math drills, is you just toss it out and have to quickly add or multiply or subtract or whatever you're saying for that day. You can make up your own board games by putting pieces. You can get these at Goodwill, or surely you have a board game running around that doesn't have all its pieces. You can relegate it to the math bag, and they can make up their own games. And math games are fantastic, or just any board game for counting, for keeping space, for skip counting by 2s and 3s and 4s. And oftentimes in our curriculum, we just say, play a board game today. And that's what we want you to do, because it really is valuable for math facts. Then we have things like straws. I just got a whole bag of straws here, and I've grouped them together in groups of 10. I have had these for almost 20 years as well. My oldest son is 20, and I'm sure he played with these in kindergarten. So I have 10 sets of them in here, so that makes 100 straws, and we'll pull one apart. And this is really valuable when it comes to learning to borrow and to carry in addition and subtraction. And they are able to see it and quickly understand why we want them to memorize their facts, because if they had to use the straws to figure out a problem like that, they'd never get done. But it is really valuable to introduce it. And then we quickly learn with drill how to memorize the number. Now, memorizing numbers, we have just simple flashcards. I start with the youngest kids, and this is in the Together School. We have cards that go up through 12, and I've just written on them. These are just 3x5 cards, really simple. And you know, I get the question a lot, should my first grader repeat that kindergarten stuff? They had it last year, and it's so easy, especially, you know, okay honey, go find 6 teddy bears. But I'm telling you, all the way up to your 3rd and 4th graders, as your older siblings see that kindergartner go find 6 teddy bears, your older kids are going to want to do it too. It's excellent to repeat things over and over. Your kids love it. You might think, oh, we did this before. But how many times has it taken you to repeat a skill over and over again before it becomes easy? And the point of arithmetic and the point of lessons being repeated is to make it easy and make it fun, so that your child is not always having to struggle at the peak of their ability. I like these. I get them from Usborne. These are called wrap-ups, and I think one of my kids played with this recently and it's really wrapped up. But what you can do is this, the one I have here specifically is for multiplication facts. They have them for a variety of, even fractions, I think. I don't have that one. But they have to solve what is 4 times 1. Because it says 4 times 1. 4 times 1 is 4. What is 4? Or 2 times 1, 2 times, and so on. And you just wrap it up as they solve the thing. And that's a game that they like. My kids are not allowed to play with us outside of math time, so it makes it special for math. Another thing, and you can get these, we have these to download during the things. They're triangles, and when they're learning their multiplication facts, you can see here this has 7 times 4 is 28. So you cover up one corner. Now it's 28 divided by 7 is 4. Or 28 divided by 4 is 7, or 4 times 7 is 28. So those are just really great flashcards, but they don't feel so flashcardy. And you can play war, you can play Go Fish. There's just a lot of games, and we're going to schedule this for you. And then sometimes we have plain old-fashioned drill. Say all of your times tables. 1 times 4 is 4. 2 times 4 is 8. 3 times 4 is 12. 4 times 4 is 16. And they should be eventually able to do it at that speed so that math becomes easy and relaxing and fun and not so stressful. Now, we also ask your children, especially in the younger years, to color at least once a week, but preferably more. Coloring in the lines will help your child have the dexterity and small muscle movement to be able to line things up in math across and over to have everything become neat and tidy. And you'll notice that that writing starts out large, but then it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. I can't get any smaller with a marker. And that is difficult. That's not a math skill. That's not a mental skill. That's a pencil skill. So sometimes math books, even ours, require skills that are beyond what your child's hand can do. If your child is not able to write on the worksheet yet, then get a big whiteboard and let them solve their problems big, because they will know it in their head and then their hand will catch up. But one of the ways you can help your child's hand to catch up is to give them coloring and encourage them to stay in the lines, to have that self-control to be able to color inside that line. As they're doing that, their hand is going to catch up, and then math won't be so difficult. I know it doesn't sound like a math skill, but coloring is one of the best things that you can do. Also calendars, let's see, clocks on the wall in your house, both digital and regular analog clocks, all of these alarms, timers, stopwatches, Legos. I cannot fail to mention Legos, and I know that's a name brand. You can get other brands as well, but I do recommend Lego brand. And they are good for manipulatives. They are good because there are 6 little holes on a standard brick, or is it 8? Oh boy, my kids are going to laugh at me. Anyway, your kids, as they play and construct and build things, will learn the multiples, and all of their math skills will be easier. Later on, of course, they're going to need a compass and a protractor, but in our courses, you will not need anything fancy. No scientific calculators, no expensive compasses and protractors. Get the simple ones that you can get anywhere cheaply. So basically, in our lower levels, we introduce the numbers, coins, telling time, simple adding and subtracting, and then by the time they get into 2nd and 3rd grade, that reinforces adding and subtracting, and then it becomes automatic. And at that point, we barely begin to introduce multiplication, and we do multiplication in 2nd and 3rd grade only up to the number 5, so they can count by 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s, and they'll be able to do that very quickly, and they'll get the concept of how to multiply. And then in 4th grade, we start introducing the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 families. And so by then, they'll have all of their math facts really well. And I usually find that for kids, 4th grade is the hardest. If you find that your student is struggling in 4th grade, cut down the number of problems. Make sure that you are doing your drill time, your flashcards, and your games together. That is the most important part. Then in 5th grade, increase the little bit of how many problems they have to do on the page, and maybe you could even repeat that 4th grade set of worksheets. And then in 6th grade, start them on year 2. Even though it says year 2, you don't have to do it the second year, but it'll be a little bit harder. The problems are longer, and that's really the only difference. So I mentioned that you're teaching all of your kids at the same time. I have been officially homeschooling since my oldest was 5, and I used to use a different curriculum. I've used many curriculum over the years, and one year first I had my 5-year-old and he grew, and then I had more kids and more kids. I have 7 total. And we had so many kids homeschooling, and I was trying to keep track of all of the different teachers' manuals. And one day I noticed that my oldest son was learning fractions when my daughter, that's 3 years younger than him, was also learning fractions. And then I have a son that's 4 years younger, and he was also learning fractions. And I felt like all I did was go from one child to the next all day and explain the same concept over and over and over again. And I thought, we're all sitting at the table, we could all do this together. And then my oldest could do the really hard fraction, and my youngest could do a very simple fraction, but they would all be learning the same idea. And one summer I actually laid out all those teachers' manuals across the table, and I made a chart of what week each concept was introduced, and wouldn't you know it, they were introducing, it was the same company for all of them, they were introducing the same concepts at the same times, but they were just changing the worksheet so that the kids would have something different to do. From then on, I said, that's it. We're all going to be learning the same thing together every day. Now, I have noticed in practical life that the younger kids, by younger I mean kindergarten through about 3rd grade, are spending more time on addition and subtraction, where the older kids, 4th and up, are going to spend more time on multiplication and division, which still includes adding and subtracting, and it'll also include ratios and percentages and fractions. And so maybe you would need a time together with your younger children to review the adding and subtracting, and a time together with the older ones to review their multiplication and division, and to apply it to fractions and ratios and such. But you could all go cook together and apply it to, fractions and multiplying things out. But even still, it simplified my life dramatically. And I asked my mom. My mom is in her 70s, and she went to her first elementary schools in a very small, rural Michigan one-room schoolhouse. And in that schoolhouse, they had kindergarten through 8th grade all in the same room. And I said, Mom, how did the teacher do that? How did she teach all those math classes every day? And she said, honey, they didn't. We all sat and watched her teach the lesson, and then we each had our own books. Ding, 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 ding. And I wasn't crazy. This is really how people used to do it. And I firmly believe in it. Now, I have customers write to me and say, I can't give that same worksheet to my children this year. They had it last year. I've been given the same worksheets to my kids for quite a few years now, and they don't seem to mind. First of all, they become easier each year, and second of all, you will not remember what you did on day 46 of last school year. You just won't remember. And I think there's a familiarity that comes with it too. Having said that, we at Homeschooling Torah eventually hope to roll out worksheets that are specific for each grade, but I'm not going to change my basic philosophy that the mom can be teaching the same thing to all of her children every day. And that's going to stay the same. And even if you used the same worksheets over and over until it becomes easy and automatic, when it becomes easy and automatic all the way through the division tables, and they can apply it to harder things such as ratios and percentages, then you can set it aside and go on to advanced math like algebra. That's really the only ticket. Back in the day, they used to do it earlier in 7th and 8th grade, and now I think we've dumbed down our kids and we're not doing it till 9th grade, and that's fine. We might have things like consumer math, learning to buy a car and have a business and things that you can apply it. But either way, it doesn't really take that long to memorize these facts. What takes a long time is to practice until it becomes easy. And frankly, you could even wait until your children are older to do math at all. You have my permission. So, our prayer is that we can simplify the mom's life every day, and we can really help the kids learn their things well. One verse that strikes me when it comes to math, since Jehovah made math, and his laws and his Torah govern all of the creation, one thing that strikes me is his burden is easy, his yoke is easy, and his burden is light. That should characterize your math. When math time is characterized by tears and 2-hour math sessions and bad attitudes, you probably need to scale off the worksheets and go to more games, board games and coloring and cooking in the kitchen and going to the grocery store together, because his yoke is easy and his burden is light. But then teach your children to know their facts very quickly. Do it, all of them together. Have a race. And then you can put back, and gradually increase their attention span for their worksheet problems. Don't be bound to a curriculum. It should never be a miserable experience. Math should be something that we just get over with each day and we go on to more exciting topics.